Speaker, to the Minister of Finance, does he stand by his statement that, quote, theoretically the right thing to do would be to have a comprehensive capital gains tax, close quote?
The Honourable Bill English.
Yes, Mr Speaker, I stand by the statement that tax theorists do support a comprehensive capital gains tax, that is, on all capital gains, including a family home. However, the government certainly does not support a complicated new tax that is part of a big spending and increasing debt package advocated by that member.
Order. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, is the Minister aware of the overwhelming importance of tax theorists in the 31 of 34 OECD countries that in fact have a capital gains tax and of course reside in the OECD, the IMF, the New Zealand Treasury and the New Zealand Reserve Bank, which have all recommended that one be adopted here?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the experts the member quotes all favour a comprehensive capital gains tax, which I note the member doesn't, because his would reduce the capital gains tax on property traders and provide a number of exemptions, which will mean not much revenue will be raised. The total effect is a package he's produced which ends up costing the country, it would need a package he's produced which would require borrowing of about $18 billion extra over the next 10 years.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, if his criticism of Labour's capital gains tax policy is that it is not comprehensive enough, is he aware that in 31 of the 34 OECD countries that have capital gains taxes, of all 31, only Japan includes the family home? And can he therefore confirm that he would support a capital gains tax that did include the family home?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I can confirm that we do not support a big tax, big spending package which would leave the country with a large legacy of extra debt.
The Honourable David. Order.
Mr Speaker.
I apologise, the member. Order. The Honourable David Cunliffe. Supplementary question.
A supplementary question, Mr Speaker. If the Minister is alleging that Labour's package is big spending, is he aware that it reduces net Crown debt to zero before the plans outlined in his own 2011 budget? And if so, does he agree with himself that, quote, the tax system relies too heavily on those taxes most harmful to growth, such as corporate and personal income taxes, and that sectors with low effective tax rates, notably property, have expanded at the expense of the rest of the economy? And if so, will he now endorse Labour's policy that reduces income tax by $1,000 for every household and replaces it with a CGT that closes the largest tax loophole?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, in that case the member should have supported the government's budget and tax package last year, which is this year taking $1 billion of extra tax out of the property sector. But our main objection to the member's package is it represents big tax, big spending and big debt when this economy needs exactly the opposite if it is to grow.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, which is better for the economy? His government's plan to sell profitable, publicly owned assets that brings a bit of cash up front but sees billions of dollars of dividends flow offshore forever, or Labour's fair tax plan that gives every Kiwi a tax cut on the first $5,000 they earn, closes the capital income tax loophole and keeps Kiwi assets and dividends in Kiwi hands?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, our plan's much better because it incentivises work, exporting, savings and investment, and it disincentivises excessive borrowing and consumption. His plan is worse because it means a big new tax, big government spending and a lot more debt for New Zealanders at just at the time when debt is toxic.
Amy Adams.
Supplementary question to the Minister. What reports has he seen about how a capital gains tax might apply to KiwiSaver and other retirement savings?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, among the many dodgy assumptions and rubbery numbers in a package announced recently. I've seen a report from the New Zealand Shareholders Association very concerned at the impact of the capital gains tax proposed on 1.6 million KiwiSaver accounts. The association asked whether the proposed tax would apply to KiwiSaver. Labour's finance spokesman said the 15% capital gains tax would apply to these savings. The Shareholders Association noted the compounding effect of this new tax on KiwiSaver savings would be very negative for the balances in New Zealanders' KiwiSaver accounts.
The Honourable John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister of Finance. If big spending, big tax and big debt are harmful to the economy, why is his government running a deficit this year of $16.8 billion?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, that is a very good question. And the main reason it is so big is because we have allocated in this last financial year most of the government cost of dealing with the Christchurch earthquake. But we share the members' concern about the size of that deficit, and that is why in the last budget we put in a plan that will get us back to surplus by 2014-15, which will make us one of, I think, only 3 developed countries in the world who will have that degree of financial security. And it's why we are going to argue vigorously this year against other plans to significantly increase New Zealand's debt at a time when that is a dangerous thing to do.
The Honourable David Parker.
Is the Minister aware whether KiwiSaver accounts currently pay tax on their profits from share trading? And if he's not aware of the answer to that, why did he answer the question from Amy Adams in the way he did?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, it's not my package. The more important question is whether the opposition spokespeople are aware of the impact of the...
Order! What's wrong with the Minister's ears? Well, I was calling order for quite some time before the Minister responded at all. Now, ministers know when they start commenting on other parties' policies, they're at risk. Now, the questions to the Minister invited that earlier on. A question from his own colleague, he went on to attack the opposition's policies, which was starting to tread on thin ice. But the question from the Honourable David Parker asked whether or not, in the Minister's answer to a previous question, he had considered whether or not taxation on what I presume he was claiming to be capital gains in profits from the KiwiSaver were taxed. And I believe it was a serious question that deserved to be treated seriously, not just an attack on the questioner. I invite the Honourable David Parker to repeat his question.
Is the Minister aware of whether KiwiSaver accounts already pay tax on their profits from trading in shares? And if he's not aware of whether that is true or not, why did he answer the question from Amy Adams in the way that he did?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, I am aware of the current rules, and I'm also aware there was a recent package proposed which would extend the application of capital gains tax to all capital gains in KiwiSaver accounts, which will make 1.6 million KiwiSavers worse off under Labour.
Question number 8, Jonathan Young. I beg your pardon. I do beg your pardon. Question number 6, Nikki Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I beg your pardon.